Today we're going to take a look at the most broken Ultra League core that is currently available. We're going to take a look at the Dragonite plus Empoleon core, which you see as well in the Open Great League, and it is very overpowered. Of course, Open Great League, you rather would want to run the Altaria instead of the Dragonite, but the Dragonite is just so much better than Altaria in the Ultra League, as Altaria doesn't really get to those 2500 CP. And so, today we're going to take a look here at a very overpowered team, which we're going to have in the back here, the Giratina. I did not come up with this team myself, of course it's like a very common core generally, but I actually recently only lost against this team and I want to give it a try, especially with Giratina in the back, which seems to be very good in current matchups generally because of the typing that it has, as we're also going to have coverage here for Abomasnow with our Ancient Power. And honestly, Giratina was so amazing, like honestly it's such a old school Pokemon that still has so much potential in the current meta. But let's take a look here at what we can do. The Empoleon is going to go up against the opponent's Abomasnow now, and I'd rather go for the shield because Empoleon with the energy is absolutely broken, and we see it here as well. They're going to have an Alolan Muck in the back, and by the way, we are at like 3000 plus ELO range. We are here at a position where people are knowing what they're doing, but I didn't really expect to see a Muck today, but apparently they want to run it, but this doesn't really help them because they have a 0 chance of winning this battle at this point. They're forced to go for a Brave Bird here in order to knock out our Dragonite, which now puts them into farm down range for either of our other Pokemon, so that's going to be a good game. So let's take a look at what the next opponent going to have here. We're going to have the Galarian Weezing against us as they're going to swap out into the Ampharos. And this is like the one issue that I have currently with the Ultra League. It's kind of like two types everywhere, and Ampharos is quite a bit of a difficult Pokemon to deal with. So we're going to be able to go for the Dragon Claw here. This is our best answer to the opponent's Ampharos. And by the way, if you're wondering, I see those comments all the time. Do you need Shadow Dragonite and do you need Shadow Empoleon? Especially for Empoleon, it's actually recommended to not run the Shadow version of this Pokemon. But for Dragonite, I would say that the Shadow version is quite a little bit better. But both of them, you don't need the Shadow Pokemon if you don't have it. So like this is actually a very good, especially even like starter team. Like we have two Pokemon that have been like had community days, and I guess Giratina has been around for like so many years now. If you want to start back into the Ultra League, this is the team you kind of want to run. And here I will use a shield against the opponent's Virizion, which is allowing us to hopefully go for a Drill Peck soon, but I expected them to swap out into the Weezing, and I needed my Empoleon to get rid of this Pokemon, because actually against the Virizion, I'm still fine with the Pokemon that I have in the back with the Dragonite, but against the Weezing, I had absolutely 0 chance unless they would want to catch a move, which they did here. They're still forced to go for a charge move against me, and I will just utilize this as I can now swap out into my Dragonite. And as long as they don't have Stone Edge, I win. But even if they have Stone Edge, I win because I can just go for the superpower beforehand, but the opponent forfeits anyway. This was a very lucky matchup here for me, because we're going to have the Greninja in the lead, which is not actually ideal for our own lead. We win this, I think, in the 0 shields, but otherwise it's going to be a bit tough. But I swap out at the same time as the opponent swaps out. They swap out into the Corviknight as I swap out into my Dragonite. And Dragonite is the safe swap for this team because of the amazing coverage that we have. And this is the thing here, I have actually perfect coverage against the opponent's Corviknight, knocking them out here with a Thunder Punch. And in comes the Greninja again, which I have also coverage for, as we have another Thunder Punch coming through, which is going to force the first shield from the opponent. And so now it depends on if they're going to be able to knock me out here in time. They would very likely go for 2 Night Slashes. Okay, I can actually swap out of here and catch the next Night Slash, because I know I was close to another charge move with a Dragonite, and I will be able to reach one in the end later on. But they swap out into the Virizion. I make an interesting play. I decided to go for a shield here. I have Drill Peck, which is double super effective. I'm well aware that I will never get the Drill Peck off, but I basically get the opponent's shields down. And where this is important is actually the Greninja matchup, because I have 2 Pokemon then that would be able to very likely need to one-shot the Greninja with just a single hit. My Dragonite definitely does that, but here, even with the energy that I can generate against the opponent's Virizion, my Giratina is going to be in a very solid position to get to another charge move as well. And hindsight, I should mostly have stopped out here and tried to go for the Thunder Punch, because either they go for a charge move then, and I can go for the Dragon Claw, which knocks them out, or whatever, the opponent forfeits anyway, we can move on to the next opponent. Surprisingly, there were actually quite a lot of Shadow Raikou around, a Pokemon I want to build as well, but currently I'm actually missing Stardust. This is kind of more what I'm missing. I have like around 500,000 Stardust, which seems to be a lot just generally, but for Go Battle League, especially for Shadow Pokemon, the Ultra League, it's basically you can build one. That's basically it. And as we are getting now into the final stage of this season, which is an interlude season, which nobody like is really caring about, to be fair, which makes a lot of sense. I kind of want to keep some Stardust for the upcoming season, which is going to be way more interesting for everyone involved. So yeah, here we're going to be able to, by the way, see the Dusknoir, which is going to go down against our Giratina. We're going to have the Raikou coming back in, and Raikou should be actually something that we can completely hard roll, as they usually run a Wild Charge as well as the move Aura Sphere. But I knew at this point already, if they shield here, they're very likely going to have Shadow Ball as a coverage move, which they have, and they do so much damage, knocking us low enough that the Reason would win against us. If they didn't have the Shadow Ball, I'm fairly certain I would have had actually a very solid chance of winning this battle. Was a little bit tough, but we can move on to the next team here. We actually went for an 80% win rate with this team. I had a great time climbing with this team. Like, this team was fantastic. Like, the core of Empoleon and Dragonite is just broken. Like, this is the same stuff that we see in the Open Great League currently, because there is not really a Pokemon that can break it, because only really one type can destroy this one, which is Electric plus Fairy, which only the Dedenne as well as the Tapu Koko have, and like neither of which are currently meta in either of those leagues. So yeah, that makes kind of this core quite easily accessible, and they just work really well together. Like, if you take a look at the weaknesses of Empoleon, it's going to be ground, fighting. I don't actually Electric as well. I guess Electric we can't counter directly with our Dragonite here, but we can counter fighting type as well as ground type Pokemon, while we have the weakness here of Fairy as well as Ice, which is going to be countered by our lead here, as well as rock type Pokemon, which you're also going to be able to counter. Here, this was a very weird battle, because I tried to catch the move here onto my Empoleon, thinking, okay, I can catch like a water move or something like this. I very likely have like a Water Pulse Body Slam. I should be kind of fine here because I resist everything with both of my Pokemon. That's what I thought here at this point. But it turns out I was incorrect. I shield this move up. It's going to be an Earth Power. They have a ton of energy, and they can go for another Earth Power here right now. And my only way of winning this one is if they shield this next move up, I can go for the Ancient Power and I get the boost. This is now the only win con that I have. Let's take a look. The Ancient Power is coming in. I don't get the boost. They still have a shield left. I go for a Dragon Claw. Last hope here. And they're actually going to decide to let the move go, and I win somehow. They still have one shield left. I don't know why they did this. I have no idea why they did this. Okay, next up. We're going to have a Pangaro on the lead, which is quite bad, and they go for a charge move here. I was kind of irritated why they go for it like this and why it's a close combo on the Night Slash, but we don't talk about it. I guess they want to put me into range where Jonkus can farm us down, but they will need to go for a shield if they do that, which they do here right now, which is going to be a bit interesting, as the Thunder Punch is going to get the shield from the opponent. We can now swap out into our Giratina. Giratina is going to do double resistant fast move damage, needs to go for an Ancient Power to knock them out, but also we can take the hits a bit easier than what we can do with the Empoleon. They swap back out into the Pangoro, and I'm actually quite happy about that, because now I can go for a Dragon Claw, and I'll put them into farm down range for my Giratina. There's nothing they can do about it. I can shield this move up, because a Night Slash here does more damage than anything that the Togekiss, for example, can go for. As we know, it's Psyshock as well as Aura Sphere as a moveset. Let's see what they're going to have as their final Pokemon though. It is going to be the Tentacruel. And I swap out here, and I feel like there was a bit of a mistake. I should most I stayed in for a tiny bit at least. Because now the opponent has some energy on the other Pokemon, which is going to be, of course, the Togekiss, which has access to Aura Sphere, which should knock us out. And here, if I wasn't the Shadow, I would have been able to survive this. Again, Shadow is actually worse on the Empoleon. I just wanted to have a little bit more, I don't know, a little bit more damage output, a little bit more fun here. But Aura Sphere would have not knocked us out if we were in Shadow. And now we are going to be in a losing position, because we are forced still to go for a charge move against the opponents here. There's nothing else I can do here other than hoping basically for like the boost from that one, which I didn't get. And now I can go for the Dragon Claw against the opponent's Tentacruel, and while they are now below half health, another Dragon Claw is just barely not going to be able to pick up the KO against the opponent, as they're going to have either the Payback or the Blizzard here to knock me out anyway. Nobody is running a Sludge Wave in this meta, and that's exactly what's going to happen here. And we're going to move on to the next opponent. Alright. That is going to be an interesting lead matchup. We're going to have the Toucannon, which is generally considered to be a good lead matchup for ourselves. As I go swap onto the Licky, I'm going to be able to go for a charge move here. The Hydro Cannon is coming through, doing some solid damage. I get a free fast move in, which I will gladly take. The Shadow Ball is going to connect, and I can go for another Hydro Cannon, while like basically leaving here with quite a lot of energy still left on my Empoleon 2 fast moves. We see what they're going to have here in the back, which is going to be the Cobalion, and I can go for one fast move there and then swap out into my Dragonite. I go for the Superpower straight away, which is a bit of a risky move. If they no shield, it's going to be a bit tough. They no shield, and so I'm going to be forced to actually use a shield here, because I have in the back here the Giratina, which is not as ideal. In comes the Toucannon. We are going to be forced to use a shield here against the opponent. I can go for the Thunder Punch here. And if the shield, I can swap out into my Empoleon and still knock them out with a charge move there. So let's see here. We're going to be able to go for the Toucannon. This is going to be crucial because now we're going to get a lot of damage up against the opponent. We can go for the full farm down against the Toucannon. And let's see what's coming in. It's going to be the Cobalion here, which we have to counter with our Giratina. This is going to be fine. We are going to have the Stone Edge here coming in while we are having resisted damage the entire time. They're forced to always overfarm, and I don't know if they can actually do that because the Dragon Claw damage, while it's going to be resisted damage, actually does add up quite a bit as the Dragon Breath as well as adding up over a long period of time. So we will see here the Stone Edge coming in as well, doing some solid damage. We can go for another charge move. This is going to allow us to get some more damage in against them, and they are now at basically 1 HP, and I know that they can't store 2 Stone Edges, so even if they knock us out here, which they do, they're not going to be able to get to a KOing move against our Dragonite. Alright, next opponent, Corviknight in the lead. We're going to swap out straight away. I would like to go for the Thunder Punch straight away, but they catch it on the Belly Bolt, which is really unfortunate. So like that's going to be a very tough matchup for ourselves. The one benefit that we have here is that we can swap out earlier again than the opponent. And so I'm going to let the move go here. I'm fairly certain I should be able to go for 2 superpowers before they can do anything else. But now I see that the switch clock is slowly coming back up, so I can go for 1 superpower and now I can try to swap. And I will swap out here into my own Giratina, which is going to be completely hard-walling the opponent there. They swap out into the Corviknight, and here we get lucky. We get quite lucky because we're going to get here the double boost onto our Pokemon. Fun fact, by the way, back in the day, the Ancient Power was boosting both stats by 2 stats when you were activating it, which was absolutely broken. I'm happy that they just kind of changed it to what it is right now, because it makes way more sense. Because otherwise the last one you just kind of won immediately as soon as you got the boost there from the Ancient Power, and that's why a lot of people were just running teams just around those moves. Like there's some other ones that can do the same thing as well. So yeah. It's a bit interesting. Here we're going to see, though, the Belly Bolt against us. We, of course, have a very solid answer in our Giratina, which you're going to swap into right now. We will resist everything that they have as charge moves, and they kind of release here as well their final Pokemon, which is going to be the Zygarde Complete, which we can counter with the Pokemon that we have quite easily. And I'm kind of happy on how things kind of went out here, because now I have perfect alignment the entire way through this battle. As we will see, Hydro Cannon is coming in. They have Bulldoze, they got the debuff. The debuff actually kind of matters because now the next Bulldoze is going to be enough to knock me out, which otherwise would have not been the case. And so like this is going to do more than it should have usually done. But it is fine because we still have our Giratina, and I'm fairly certain that they're going to try to catch the move here, which they do. I can go for the no shield, I can just go for the full farm node. Even if this is a Zap Cannon, which it is, we should be fine because we win the CMP tie as long as we have that Dragon Claw stored, where we have 2 of them. We are going to be able to win this battle, as there's nothing they can do to stop us here at this point. Alright. Zapdos. Like, honestly, still, there is a current plague going around in the Ultra League of just Electric-type Pokemon. They're everywhere. They're absolutely everywhere. But I realized here, quite in the middle of the battle, that I should be able to, even with this in a 2-shield scenario, just by farming them down. And I can still, of course, want to get my shields back, so I go for a charge move, which will just knock them out straight away anyway. And they reveal that they're going to have here the Magnezone in the back, a Pokemon that I can just go for the bait first, because I'm fairly certain the opponent knows that I have Superpower. And so we're going to go for the Superpower next, which is going to work out quite well, because we're going to have now all shields down from the opponent. And we have a Pokemon here in the Giratina that can resist the most hard-hitting damage from this Pokemon. So Wild Shot just not going to do that much. So they're going to go rather even for the Mirror Shot, which can drop our own attack, which is quite unfortunate. But let's see on how things are going to go here. We are going to be able to go for another charge move. This is perfectly fine. This is going to allow us to get them super low. Not low enough that we can knock them out straight away, but low enough that we're going to be able to just go ahead and go for the no shield here, farm them down, and get that, win there. Into the final battle, we're going to encounter Empoleon versus Empoleon. And let's see how we're going to play this matchup. We also swap straight away here again into our Dragonite, trying to catch a potential Hydro Cannon, as they would want to go for Hydro Cannon in the mirror matchup anyway. But we're only going to catch a Drill Peck, which is fine. I thought it was a CMP tie, but apparently that was not the case here. And so the Drill Peck is coming through, and we are going to be forced to go for the Thunder Punch now. Let's see if they're going to let the move go or not. If they let this move go, this game is over in terms, like for at least the Empoleon, but they don't do that. And now I get my move off in time, which is is handy because now at least I'm going to be able to get a lot of damage onto the Empoleon. I could go for the alignment. I'm not going to do that because what we have here is an opportunity to get even more energy on my own Empoleon, which is now standing here with a lot of energy. But this is going to be a bit of a tough matchup because what they have in the back is going to be a Jellicent. And Jellicent is going to be quite tough for the team, or like just generally teams like this. Not so much for the team, but like if you have Dragonite, for example, gone, it's going to be a bit more difficult to deal with this Pokemon, as it does super effective damage here against the Giratina, for example. It is not really ideal for us. We can go for the Ancient Power, which has again the option to boost itself up. Hopefully it can do it, it cannot, and so now here we're going to have the no shield coming through. We still should be able to survive the Shadow Ball though, which is going to be okay. As we can see now, they're going to stop onto the Venus, so I got to stop out into my Empoleon, and they just barely reach the Frenzy Plant in time. This is going to be game over. They're going to knock us to 1 HP, and we're still going to be able to win this battle, which is absolutely fantastic. As we're gonna have, the opponent's Venus is super low. I have enough energy stored for another charge move against the opponent's final Pokemon here, and this is going to be it for this video. This was a fantastic Ultra League team. What would you like to see next? Let me know down below, and I will see you then. Bye bye.